This is Carsten, and let's start right away. I know you don't have much time. If
Yes,
that's okay with you. All right. James, I have to ask you this. The name SixxAM, made up of your last names, was an ingenious idea. But I have to ask you, what do you think about the time of day, 6 a.m.? Are you an early bird or a late riser?
I am an early riser. There's nothing I love more than the silence and the stillness from about 4:30 in the morning to about
totally.
6 in the morning. I love that. It's my favorite time. It's where I probably do most of my writing, most of my creating. So yeah, ironically, 6 a.m. has had a few different meanings for us over the years.
We have the new album Hits plus some bonus tracks. How did you choose the hits? And tell us a bit about the bonus tracks too.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a combination of not only songs that were radio hits that everybody and all of our fans know, but we also wanted to choose songs that had really resonated with our fans, even if they weren't hits or even if they were just deep album tracks. And over the course of the 13 or 14 years that we've been putting music out, there have been quite a large handful of songs that have had an impact on people, even though they weren't singles. So that's really what this collection of songs is. It's a collection of radio hits, but then also songs that were hits in another way for people. Songs that, for instance, maybe came off really well live, or that fans really reacted to live, and then songs, for instance, like Skin, which has just found its way into so many people's hearts and really means something to them, again, even though it's never really been a radio song.
Have you got a favorite 6 a.m. song?
Depending on the day that you ask me that, I would answer probably differently every single day. But I do have a few songs that are always kind of at the top of that list. I love the song Van Nuys off of the Heroin Diaries soundtrack. I love Sure Feels Right off of, I think, was that off of This Is Gonna Hurt? Yeah.
Yep.
My favorite 6 a.m. album is most likely Modern Vintage. So yeah, it just depends on when you ask me. And if you ask me the same question tomorrow, I'd give you completely different answers.
I can totally understand and sympathize. Now, there are many singers who belt out songs, and they do that really well. But with you, I always get a feeling you really feel every single word, every single emotion, like in We Will Not Go Quietly. You make sure people know that you won't. How do you go about creating your vocals or just, getting into the thing?
I've never thought of myself as a singer. I think of myself as a producer and a songwriter and a musician. And at the most, I think of myself as a vocal stylist. So I've always kind of battled my own insecurities about my voice. And I think that I never felt like I really had a distinctive sound as a singer, like some singers just do. You hear one word from them and you know exactly who it is. And I've never had that type of a voice. My voice has been a little bit more like a chameleon. It can be very heavy rock, or it can be very light and soft. So I think that as a result of not having that distinctive sound, I instinctively dove really deep into the emotions of singing. I felt that was going to be my strength, was to be very emotive and to convey the emotion of a song just through the delivery. So it was something that I kind of resorted to out of necessity, because I didn't have those other things that great vocalists have.
You just mentioned, obviously, that you are a producer, you're a musician, a songwriter, singer, sound engineer, mixer, the whole thing. Was it clear from the get-go that you would take care of that stuff for 6 a.m.?
Kind of. Yeah, I was... When 6 a.m. first started, I think that when I got the call from Nikki to come out and talk about doing this project, I was in the middle of producing the Scorpions record. So when I finished that record, we all got together in the studio. And at the time, I was really just being brought in to help write songs and produce them. I wasn't going to be the singer. And so I was just, all of these vocals were just demo vocals. I was just singing them until we could audition a singer, and then they could find the right singer. And it just, that part of it never happened. We just kind of jumped the gun, and the next thing you know, we had a song on the radio and it had my voice on it. So I was like, well, I guess I'm the singer of SixxAM now. So that's kind of how that whole thing happened. I was always more or less just going to be the producer. I was going to be the guy that kind of brought it all together behind the scenes.
How much do you like producing and writing for other people versus doing your own stuff?
I like both of them for very different reasons. When I'm writing for somebody else, there's a little bit less pressure because I can just write it and let them sell it. I can let them go travel around the world and do interviews about it and stuff. I don't really have to be held accountable for it anymore once I've written it. But with SixxAM, because I am the singer, I'm held a little bit more accountable. So I think we put ourselves under a little bit more pressure. At least I put myself under more pressure when I'm writing songs for SixxAM. But on the flip side of that also, we don't really hold ourselves to any strict rules about SixxAM. When it comes to SixxAM, we've always said, well, we're not really a band, so we can get away with doing a 7-minute song if we want to, or we can get away with doing, this or that. So there, it's a give and take. But I think if I were to have to say which one was my favorite, I think I prefer writing for SixxAM because I don't mind that extra accountability. And it also just, it's just fills me with so much pride. I think all of us love SixxAM. Well, I'm speaking for DJ and Nikki and myself. We just love SixxAM so much because what it's allowed us to do creatively over the years.
Yeah, and let's get into one thing. Have you already read Nikki's book, The First 21?
I haven't read it from cover to cover. He's given me excerpts of it, and of course he's shared these stories with me over the years. So I'm so excited about it. And I love the fact that he's doing it now because just like with the Heroin Diaries soundtrack, or with the Heroin Diaries book, when that came out, it really introduced Motley Crue fans to a whole other side of Nicky. It really got them down into the weeds with him, and they gained an understanding of what made up this man. So with the First 21, it's rounding out the story. It's introducing a whole other part of his life that I think that fans are going to find very, very inspiring and interesting. And I certainly am inspired by the story.
Absolutely. I had the chance to read a little bit of that book, and it's very moving, which brings me to the song, The First 21, which if you compare it to the content of the book is like bittersweet. How do you view that song?
Yeah.
And the video.
Yeah, I had so much fun working on this song. I think we all did. And it's just very intentionally nostalgic for us. We wanted it to not only lyrically be nostalgic like the book, but we wanted it to be nostalgic musically as well. It's not surrounded in the trappings of modern technological musical recording styles. It's kind of old school when you really listen to it, and that was very intentional. I wanted people to feel emotional from a memory standpoint. I wanted that song to kind of force you to sit back and go, oh yeah, I remember what that was like to be young and naive. Because the older we get, those memories become more important to us. They really are the defining factors of our lives. I've spent this last couple of years spending most of my time, I don't want to say living in the past, but in a way, living in the past. I've been dusting off those old memories and trying to get some clarity on the chronological order of things. And it's been a great experience. And I think that a lot of people have been doing a lot of reflecting during COVID.
But I have to say, the music in general, not just with this song, is modern, yet very much steeped in, say, the 70s. So I would say you are a modern retro band. Would you agree?
Yes. kind of like Modern Vintage, our album Modern Vintage. I think that's always been very important to us. There have been times over the years where production-wise, I've probably pushed us a little bit more towards the modern, and now in certain cases I regret that, and in other cases I think it was the right decision to make. But for the most part, yes, your observation is right. We tend to really celebrate the nostalgia throughout all of our records. There's always those moments where it's like, yeah, this sounds kind of modern, but when you really analyze it, it's a little bit more retro than modern.
Now, I would say that SixxAM are definitely not a superficial party band, but really quite profound with messages and stuff. And also the lyrics, we already hinted at that. Now, how would you sum up, if that's possible, the general SixxAM philosophy?
Ooh, that's a nice question. I think that the three of us have always seen ourselves not only as experiencers of life, but as observers of life. So I think that at SixxAM's core, it's about taking messages that may be very specific to one person. As an example, heroin addiction.
Yeah.
Probably the majority of our fan base has never touched heroin, thankfully. But for some reason, they're still able to connect with the message, because what we've done is we've tried to make that very, very deep, heavy, important message as universal as possible. Trying to present our lyrics in a way where everyone can go, yes, even though I've never done that, I've never experienced that, that's speaking to me, it's resonating with me. So, boy, what our philosophy would be is, it probably goes back to our very first hit song, which was "Life Is Beautiful." The darkness of that song I think that is what makes it so strong. It's, with a title like "Life Is Beautiful," you'd think it's all positive. It's not. It's really about the struggle. It's about the heroism of recovery. But it's also about acknowledging the darkness of life and balancing that against the beauty of life. So for us, we've always kind of done this dance between darkness and beauty. Find a beautiful way to say something ugly.
James, I'm a glutton. In 2016, we got Praise for the Damned and Praise for the Blessed. We now have the hits record. I have to ask you, what's next?
Well, we don't have any plans moving forward with SixxAM. Right now, we've put all of our focus on putting together this collection of songs that we feel really defines our career. Our hope is that, of course, our diehard fans really love the new material and really can celebrate the old material with us through this hits album. But we also wanted to put together a collection of music that new fans, new people could discover SixxAM long after the fact. And the hits album will be a great way for them to be introduced to SixxAM. And then they can go deeper into our catalog of songs. So right now, our focus has solely been on getting this package, done and prepared and out there for people to consume. And right now, we just have no plans for the future. So we'll see. The one thing that I've learned about SixxAM is after every single album we've made, we've said, this is absolutely the last record we're going to make. This is it. We're done. And then we make another record. So I never say never when it comes to SixxAM. We don't have any plans, but who knows what's next.
All that I can say is it would be a shame if we didn't get another record, because you guys put out fantastic records, appealing to rock fans, to metal fans, to everyone. So I wish you all the best and lots of success to SixxAM. That's a given. Thank you so very much for this interview.